If you have never experienced a near suicidal depressive breakdown, I can tell you what it's like. I had one 5 years ago. Now hopefully this isn't you, but looking back, I know it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because up till then, I was just like every other clueless entrepreneur, maniacally focused on success, but ignoring all the signs, moving nonstop from one guru get-rich scheme to another, yet still completely in the dark about what I was supposed to do with my life. But as they say, that was then, this is now, and if you can hear my voice, then you and I both know we are ready to get serious about living the life we love, not just existing in it. But how do we do it? Join me as I work with hundreds of entrepreneurs just like you to learn their insider secrets, what's working now, and more importantly, what hasn't. All to help you, the struggling entrepreneur, decode what's keeping you stuck, enabling you to live better, accomplish more, and truly become the person you want to be. Hi, my name is Brian Forsyth, and welcome to Radically Unstuck.
Hey, all right. Hey, welcome to Radically Unstuck Podcast. This is Brian Forsyth. I want to welcome you to the podcast. And I want to remind you, this is not just a podcast. This is a movement and a moment. The moment you decide to start living the life that you would truly fight for, that's the purpose of this podcast. And with that, I want to introduce you to our guest, Paul. Paul is an entrepreneur. He is radically successful. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Go ahead, Paul. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, man. First off, thank you so much for having me on. It's always good fun doing these things. And, you know, when we can afford the time to do it, then sure, we should definitely go for it, because I don't know about you, but there's always stuff going on. And if you can just like take a pause for a minute and just like sit back and take in some content, whether it be a podcast or something that's going to raise you up, or something that's going to kind of like, you know, make your day a little easier to go by, then, you know, you should just go for it.
I'm with you. That is something that I think that so many entrepreneurs, especially beginning entrepreneurs, miss. Because I personally think that Gary Vee has kind of messed it up for a lot of people, because, you know, he is so in your face and he is so like, what are you doing with your life? And like, oh my gosh, stop messing around. And I'm sure that he probably doesn't mean it quite like that, but I also know that he's probably being that severe and that over the top, because he realizes that it does take, you know, just like me and you were kind of talking about, it does take a certain amount of, you know, impact to move people.
It's a little bit like your elders. If you like seeing the teenager kicking around after college and not doing much with himself, and they're like, go and get a job, you know, and it's like, go and do this, go and do that, you know, and it's literally like they had it so bad when they were growing up. They want stuff for you, you know, to be so much better, so they get all cranky when they see you sitting around doing flip balls. So yeah, I totally get that, man. That's it's bang on, that is.
Yeah, so that's what I would. That's the first thing I would say for anybody listening is the hustle will kill you if you don't, you know, if you don't take some of the hidden gems that people are trying to tell you. And I'm sure I'm not the first person that said that, you know, all hustle all day will, you know, is essentially, you know, gonna kill you. It's gonna either kill you literally or kill you physically. So if you're doing the hustle, you know, you're trying to, and I understand you've got, you know, money stuff and you've got life stuff and big dreams and all that, but just give yourself a break, you know, like have, you know, I mean, you could probably say a little bit about this idea of having a structured life, which sort of gives you, you know, if you feel like you've done things and according to structure and according to like a plan, then it's a lot easier to take a break, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not a great fan of when people say side hustle and stuff like that, because even the word hustle implies that you've always got to be, you know, rushing along and doing stuff like that. So I'm going to introduce a phrase to you now. Now, if you've heard this one before, then, you know, you're going to have to stop me on this one. But a great way to actually think about your life and what you're doing going forward. And the phrase is, stand back and let the dog see the rabbit. Now, I don't know if you've heard that one before.
Stand
like
back,
that?
let the dog see the rabbit. I kind of understand where that's coming from, but you can go ahead and explain that a little.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the whole idea behind it is, and I've spoken about this before as well, if you've got so much going on, and, you know, you yourself there mentioned before, so like, you know, if someone could get in my head for 10 minutes, what would be the message that came out? And my reply was, if they got in my head for 10 minutes, they would see probably about 600 different ideas every minute. And for them, it would be almost chaos. But for me, it's something that I've got used to over the years. But the way forward really is to try and not only plan, but become a little bit more disciplined on your time, because I think there has to be this work and life balance. Because if all you're doing, and especially if you have to still go out and do a day-to-day job, if all you're doing is you know, you're getting up, you're rushing through your routine, and then you're heading out the door, then you've got the commute to work, then you're working like crazy all day, and then you got the commute home, and then you got the little bit of family time, and then you hop on the computer till the small hours in the morning. You can't keep that up mentally and physically. It's not possible. You have to kind of like sit back a little bit. And that phrase, sort of like stand back and let the dog see the rabbit, is probably something that will help people if they don't want their life to be as busy. They've just got to kind of like look back at their business, whatever they're doing, and think, right, what's working, what's not, and what shouldn't I be doing? And then you can start trying to take out the bits and pieces which are really just kind of like busy doing nothing, right? Because we can all be busy. I can be busy all day, right? My partner will attest to that as well. She'll always say, oh God, you're always busy. But yeah, you can be busy all day, and it might not be doing you any good because you're not working on the things that are going to make you more profitable longer term. I mean, my idea of sitting around watching YouTube videos for 8 hours a day in the hope that I'm going to learn something isn't an effective use of my time. What I would much rather, if I wanted to increase my skill level, I would go out and actively seek out the people that are towards the top of their game or prominent on closer to my personal level, because I can't, you know, get Gary Vee on the phone and start asking him about being omnipresent.
Right.
Because it would very politely, even if I did have his number, it'd say, who the fuck is this? And off you go. And that would be it. But if, if you go for someone who's not too far away from you, then a lot of times those conversations can get opened up. Or if they have like a product or a service that they provide, even a kind of course, then I'll invest in it because I know it's going to see me better in the future, because it shortens the learning curve. So I don't have to be as busy, because now I'm not, I mean, this just reminds me, right? Going back probably 6 months ago, I'd started working in this program and it's been extremely successful. But I remember getting to a point where I just needed to actually chop out a picture inside of Photoshop. Now, I'd never used Photoshop before. So I spent around 6.5 hours how to learn to find the exact bit of Photoshop to take one picture out and put the other picture in it. And I probably could have, I could have spent $5 and had someone do it on Fiverr for me, but I was determined to do it myself. Sure. And when I look back, I just think, what an idiot! What I've been telling all these people to like cut the time down and not mess around and all this, but there really was no decent videos out there or any sort of instruction on how to do this one precise thing. And I just thought, that's crazy.
Like, because that's one of those questions that's like, it's just like one step below, right? Like you can Google, how to do this one particular thing. But if you get just one step below, just a little bit more granular, now you're spending like hours on YouTube. You're having to call the company, and it's like, because the internet, unfortunately, when you go to Google, you're going to get like this. You're going to get a river that's 1,000 miles long and 2 inches deep a lot of times, because the 2 inches is sort of what rises to the top. When you were actually looking for, you were looking like 5 inches deep or a foot. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally, yeah. And another great example pops up. I remember a couple of New Year's back, had to wear a bow tie, and I thought, I'm not going to get the clip on. I actually wanted a proper bow tie. I'm going to do this myself. So there I am, New Year's Eve, right up to like 4:30 p.m., still trying to learn this thing through, again, instructional videos that you find online.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, if I would have quite happily paid the guy in store $20 to physically show me how to do it, because then I would have known myself almost instantly, and then I could have done those bow ties whenever I needed to for whatever event or anything going forward. So I think that's kind of like an important life lesson. If any time where you're really struggling to learn something, then go to someone who knows how to do it and get them to show you, or at least, give you some sort of instruction on it. It just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's one of those. I am probably like many entrepreneurs, in that I will get caught on something and I will be like, yeah, I'll spend like 10 minutes on it, and I'll think about it, and I'll be like, okay, do I really need to be doing this right now? And I get stuck in that rabbit hole, and I'll spend like, this one thing will like consume an hour, because I was just so intent on learning it, or, doing it. And so just talking to the people out there in listener world, when you struggle with something, when you're doing something, need to know how to do something, whatever it is, if you can think about it, just kind of step back and think, okay, one, do I absolutely, need to have this done right now? Or, can it wait? Like, what are my, this is one of the things we talked about, about the value of having a list and priorities for your day, and like, what are your top three? And, if you find yourself, you're working on something for 30 minutes and you're like, well, that's not really, that wasn't one of my priorities for the day, then hopefully you can break yourself out of that, that spell that can sort of happen.
Totally. Have you ever read the book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog? You ever read that one?
I have not read that frog, but the journal that I use uses the Eat That Frog analogy.
Yes. Yeah, it's the same type of thing. If you want to see a constant progress in your life or your business, then writing lists out, and I'm not talking about tapping it in your phone onto notes or anything like that, or typing it onto your computer. Actually, taking a physical piece of paper out and dropping a pen or pencil down and writing out your priorities for the next day, and trying to figure out what's the one thing you got to do, but you're really not looking forward to doing it. That is kind of like the worst thing. You've got to get it done, and you don't want to do it. That's the thing you do first, and you don't do anything else. Nothing gets in your way until you've completed that item.
Yeah, the crazy thing is Mark Twain was actually the guy who came up with the analogy of the frog, and it's a good analogy, because 9 times out of 10 we shirk away from the big thing in our life. One of the aims of this podcast is to get people to figure out what is keeping them stuck, and many times, if you look at what people are doing, what's keeping them stuck is that they're not doing the thing that they most need to do, whether it's dealing with in my case, for pretty much most of my life, dealing with the signs and symptoms of depression, which almost killed me about 5 years ago. And so just listen, just encouraging the people listening, make a determination, what is the thing that you need to do, whether it's a relationship you need to fix or mend, or a relationship you need to break, whether it's a relationship between you and a person, or you and a thing, or you and an idea. It's this idea of stepping back and kind of evaluating where you are and what's keeping you from going there and where you want to be.
Oh, totally, man. And also as well, it's I think it's so important as well to do something, or if you are an entrepreneur, then work in something or related to something that you are passionate about, because otherwise those things that you mentioned that you're not looking forward to doing, there's going to be way more of them, and there's going to be an overwhelm of things that you don't want to do just because someone told you one day you're going to be financially free if you do X, Y, and Z, but it's not something you're passionate about. It's so much easier to work on something that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, that whole idea of, because I mean, the truth is, unfortunately, we got to bring up old Gary Vee again, right? People who are struggling right now, who, they're like, okay, I need to be an entrepreneur, and they basically look and they say, okay, well, there's a way I can make money, and I can sell chinchillas, or I can sell bulldogs, or whatever it is, but they have no interest in any of it. They're just trying to make money. And I know for me, when I was I was doing this struggling entrepreneur thing, I mean, I was plumb crazy. I mean, I was staying up till 2:00 in the morning. I was waking up at 6. I was waking up at 5. I was working on like 3.5 hours of sleep. I was, darn near falling asleep in my car driving home. And I did that for, I don't know, two years or something. And yeah, I mean, it almost killed me. That's the truth. And so, just listen to what I'm saying. Like, you've gotta be doing something consciously, and also, like he just said, you got to be doing something that you really love, that there's some, what I call the big why, this idea of, something that's deeply, like, viscerally connected to you, some deep-seated desire, some want, and hopefully something involved with service, something that is about something other than just you. Because service, if you're doing it in service, then, even if you do it badly, even if you're struggling to do it, at least you're, there's a certain amount of joy and pride that comes from the fact that you're at least trying to do something to make the world a better place. And that can sort of get you towards, the places you actually want to go.
Yeah, totally agree, man. Totally agree. And I think for my part it's not just about being consistent. It's about being consistent in doing the right things. That's super important. Again, when we were talking before about wasting time and that, one of my huge bugbears on YouTube is when they start a next video, because I'll find that I can, like, literally an hour can disappear, and I've watched 3 or 4 videos and only wanted one piece of information, but because it keeps rotating around, it's going again and again and again. And that's a time killer.
It's insidious. It's like, TikTok. Speaking of insidious, TikTok, that thing is dangerous. I actually deleted the app. Like, I'm for real. I had it for, like, I don't know, 4 days. And you've been on TikTok, right? You've seen it?
Oh yeah. I've had 2 bites of the cherry that because you see people doing well on it, and I just, now again, I'm like in mid-40s, right? And I'm not saying it's an age thing. I'm not saying that it's just for the younger market and all of this, because obviously there's marketers out there doing really well with it, slightly younger than me, older than me, same age as me, and all that sort of thing. But for me, it wasn't something I was passionate about. And to be honest with you, when I did the videos, I just felt like an idiot. So, and I know it shouldn't feel like that. And I know that given the fact, like everything, if I was doing 2 or 3 a day, I would start getting better and better and better at it. But I just thought, you know what? I just don't need this extra thing in my life right now. I've got enough on my plate as it is. I'm happy with how things are going. I don't need this extra channel to start trying to work out and figure out again. So I kind of like dropped it. So who knows?
So that's actually bringing up a good point, which is when you're a beginning entrepreneur, when you're someone that's trying to build interest and build your email list and all these different things, you're trying to drive business. It's so easy to think that you need to be doing all the channels, and I think one of the things I wish I had done when I was in my right before I had my break or whatever, just pick one channel, just pick one channel, maybe 2, and just focus in on learning it and just blowing it up in your space. And once you get big enough in that channel to where you're really starting to do all right, then maybe move to another one.
I was exactly the same, and to a point, I'm still the same now. If I had my time again, I could step back 25 years. I would just go, okay, right. Well, first off, I'd probably buy some shares in Apple, but and then when this weird thing came along, Bitcoin, I'd throw a couple of grand into that as well.
For real.
The whole hindsight is a wonderful thing. It would be great to get in when it was like 10 cents.
Sure.
But you just think to yourself, right, okay, I wish I'd have just had one thing and stuck with that, and then that would have been it. It would have been easier to manage, because when you're trying to do everything, you end up doing next to nothing. And that was a problem that I had for a long time, was that I was finding that I wasn't getting traction because I was spreading myself too thin. Now, advanced to like today, I know that I can put certain things out on various channels and I'll get some sort of response. So, that is just a fact of how things have worked out. But going back in time, if I was able to just pick out YouTube, for example, and if you'd cracked it and you'd have been super successful with it, you'd have millions upon millions of people viewing the channel, and you'd never have to worry about money again, because, you were getting so much from endorsements or the YouTube money that you get from it. But I'm not saying it's too late to start doing those things now, but it does take time. And if you're in a hurry with stuff, then maybe that's not the way to go, because organic methods always take longer than paid methods. At the end of the day, speed loves money. So, and it is a constant balance of, I always recommend to people, says, don't borrow money to start using paid ads. Don't even bother with paid ads until you're earning at least $1,000 a month, and then use that money. And that's the way forward. And don't just go out and try and do it all on your own. Don't do this lone wolf thing. You've got to get help if you want to shorten the learning curve.
So one of the things that I want to highlight is that the truth is that most of the things that you see that people are doing, whether it's affiliate marketing, whether it's, selling dogs, whether it's, being a Facebook marketer, like pretty much all of the things that you see, you can definitely make money at. Like all of them, somebody has made, a bunch of money doing. But the question is, what do you want to do? Because it all takes a certain amount of time. It all takes a certain amount of effort to build it. So it's really a question of, that's what goes back to what we were talking about just a second ago about make sure you're doing something that you have interest in, that you love, because otherwise you get into what really bit me, which is shiny object syndrome. I mean, in the space of 2 years, I was like, I did like 6, 7 different things, like whole different things, everything from Shopify stores to, I did everything but sell dogs. I mean, I did like all kinds. At one time, I had like 108 websites.
I think at the worst point, I think I had like 50 odd at one point, and I've slimmed them down now. Occasionally I'll go back in and I'll have a look and see actually which ones I do need. And I mean need, not just that would be nice to keep for a while.
Right.
These are functioning domains on a website that is actively being used. And then anything that's not, you just cut away. So you change the auto renew, because they're buggers at those hosting companies and domain companies, and they'll auto bill you when you come to the end of your contract. I think they should change that. They shouldn't be allowed to do that, because I remember getting a bill once from a domain host. It's like $170, and I thought, how on earth did that happen? I don't even use these guys that much. I've got like one old, really bad template website which no one sees or visits. How have I got that? And then when I went into it, it was a whole bunch of domains renewing, and I was like, oh shit, I don't even use these things. I got to quit on them right now. And that's another thing to do as well. If you want to declutter and actually really, really drill down to what you're actually needing, you can go through your statements, go through the last 3 months of if you're just using your bank or your credit card or whatever it is you use to buy stuff. Go and have a look and see what those regular payments have been over the last 3 months. Identify them, write them out, and then evaluate exactly if you need each item, because I guarantee you there's going to be some stuff in there which you either completely forgot about or don't actually use that much, and you can save yourself a few $100 a year just by doing that. And it's so gratifying to see that decluttering almost, and thinking, right, great, I've freed up some cash. I've not got these bills to pay now because they're gone. And it's a little bit like, you ever have like a garage sale or something and you get rid of stuff? Because it's just clutter. You didn't need it. I mean, I'm ashamed to say I've got stuff in the back of my car now that's been there 6 months, and I clearly haven't needed it because I would have got it out. So next time I roll by the collection center or something like that, I might just like dump it in there and just say, here you go, because I ain't using it.
So speaking of, this idea of clutter, right? So it turns out that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the brain and all this different stuff for a second. So it turns out that your brain never forgets anything. And what is important about that is every agreement that you've ever made, your brain is still keeping track of it. If you made an agreement, like in my case, I still have this closet that I have been meaning to clean out. And the way that the brain works is it only has so much energy. And once the energy is gone, then your thinking, your decision making, all these things are dramatically lessened until, such time as you basically recharge, which usually means some type of sleep or meditation. So the problem with this is that all of the agreements in your life that you've made, somewhere in your mind, they are leaching out. They're leaching your brain power. And so one of the things that you might consider doing is to go through and try to find these major decisions or these major, things that you said you were going to do, these agreements that you've made with yourself or with someone else, and sort of mentally close the door and let your brain know that, you are no longer keeping that agreement, so that it will stop tracking. And that, talking about the clutter The clutter is actually an agreement. All the things that you're still keeping in your life that you don't actively use for something is part, because they're technically agreements and valuations that your brain is still keeping track of. So, speaking of what he was, you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. I'm taking this all, man. I'm writing notes as we speak.
So just, if at all possible, declutter, get rid of those things. I mean, and I think one of the biggest examples of this is James Altucher. He basically gave away, like, his house. He had gone through this depression, and then he came out of it, and he sort of had this epiphany, and he calls a friend and says, here's the house, everything in it is yours. And he goes traveling around the country with like a burlap sack and a laptop. And this is the same dude that he's had multiple fortunes. One time I think he ran like an $86 billion venture capital fund. And he said basically that he just said, here you go, sell it or keep it, it's all yours. And he just walked away from it because he felt like it was draining him. So listeners, please pay attention to that stuff. And if you have, if you need to, release the clutter, because it's a brain drain in a very real sense.
Oh, totally, yeah. And I guess you can associate that with a lot of things in your life, so it's not just the closet that you've got to clear out. It could be, like I said, cutting out the stuff that you do on a day-to-day that you don't really need to do. It could be clearing out your stuff that you're not actually using, like I said before, about software and tools that you might be paying for, or domains that you're not using. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can relate that to, but you've also got to focus on not just the physical work of doing that, but look at the goal in mind. Look at the better feeling you're going to have about yourself. Get those endorphins coming out and think, once I've done that, I'm just going to feel so much better. Things are going to be so much easier because I'm not then tracking this, tracking that, doing this, doing that. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there are so many things online now which makes your life as an entrepreneur more complicated. I mean, one of the things they say, you should always know your numbers, always know your numbers. And I remember these like tools which allow you to track clicks to your link. And you just think, is that really a KPI you should be taking care of? No. If you're running a webinar, you don't want to know, really, you don't want to know how many clicks you're getting. You want to know, if you're running paid ads, how much it costs you to get a registrant. You don't need to know how many impressions has been that day. You don't need to know how many clicks you got that day. What you need to know is the key KPI, which is how much it costs you to get the result you're going for.
Right.
So there's just so much stuff out there. It's just, there's, BS or whatever you want to call it. But you're picking on some really good points here, man. And I reevaluate my situation myself and look at things and think, right, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Am I really using effective use of my time and my brain and everything else that goes with it? And when you can sort of like offload some stuff, then it can make a big difference, and a happier life should follow, I think.
All right. Hey, with that, I sure appreciate Paul being on. This has been awesome. It's actually helped me quite a bit. It's always fun to do these podcasts because you find out so much and you also get to learn. So I really appreciate you coming on. And with that, I just want to thank, and with that, I just want to say, go ahead and tell us where we can find you, Paul.
First off, Brian, let me say I had a blast. It was super informative, and I really enjoyed it, man. I love doing these things, and anytime that I can do them, then, you know, it's a blessing in my own day. So if anyone wants to find out a little bit about me and what I do, I actually do a daily podcast. So that is literally recording every day. And you can go and find that at all the top podcast suppliers and providers or whatever it is. And the title of the podcast is Ultimate Affiliate Marketing.
Hey, and that's awesome. I just want to tell y'all, affiliate marketing is a wonderful thing, but for God's sakes, find someone that knows what they're doing to teach you the ins and outs, the ropes, the shortcuts, because while many people think of the affiliate marketing as this magic carpet to the riches that they all, you know, dream of, the truth is anything, as we've said, you know, a little bit earlier in this show, near anything can work for you, but it's going to take work. It's going to take dedication. And the best thing you can do for yourself is to find someone who has done the thing that you want to do, because that is the magic carpet, because they can save you 10 years, 15 years, because they've already lived them. So they know all of the steps in between where you are and where you're trying to go. So whether it's affiliate marketing, whether it's, you know, whatever it is, find someone and make sure that they are who they say they are, that they've done what you really want to do, and then invest in yourself. So with that, I just want to say to everybody listening, thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope that it has helped you. I hope that it has given you some valuable insights. And if it has, please do me a favor and go to this link and leave me a review and get yourself subscribed for the $50 gift card that we give out monthly to our listeners. That link is https://ratethispodcast.com/unstuck. And if you will hit that link and tell me how I'm doing, tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, I will appreciate it. And of course, you may win that $50 gift card that we give out. And with that, I just want to thank you. I want to thank my guests. All of my guests are amazing. I really appreciate them coming on the show and sharing their stories, sharing their heart. And with that, peace, y'all.